What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I'm going to talk to you about Tupperware. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's caused so much volatility over this last little bit, and whether right now should be a time to buy or not. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. So starting off on Friday, did go up 4.19%. Very volatile day. So $1.83 the high, $1.67 the low. 925,000 shares were traded, 4.42 is the average. That's kind of one common occurrence with Tupperware over this last week, is just more of a reduction in volume. So something to keep in mind, especially in a momentum play, because I do really see Tupperware kind of solely as that and somewhat as a squeeze play, but you definitely do need a lot of capital to get in. And over this last little bit, institutions have been avoiding it, as you can kind of see based on the blank screen. Dark pool, on the other hand, seems to be a little bit more popular, especially considering while it was kind of spiking right here, the dark pool was very active. So obviously dark pool is often enough linked to shorting and whatever else. And actually that is why it has been very volatile over this last little bit, because there's been no actual news, no SEC filings, nothing really to justify any of it, rather than just the meme craze. So Roaring Kitty kind of kicked that off with a couple tickers he kind of was talking on and just doing a lot of memes. And then aside from that, 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧, for those of you that are on Twitter, he does have a good chunk, so 537,000 followers. And he just said, don't sleep when it's cheap, and ticker TUP. So when it comes down to these big names kind of advertising a lot of heavily shorted stocks, this is how you do get a rush of retail getting in, and thus a lot of volatility. So like I said, when it comes down to logic, just looking at the actual company itself, I feel like that necessarily isn't a good buy. But with the recent PCE numbers coming out and possibly rate cuts coming as early as maybe July / maybe September, this is where the market is going to really push a lot of spec plays such as Tupperware. So as a squeeze play, this is where I do feel that it is it's advantageous. It's been holding its gains, so I'm going to talk all about all that. So right now 21.54% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 8.99 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 79.97, and on Friday shorts did increase about 6,000 shares, so kind of a drop in the bucket all in all, but cost to borrow average is 11.99. And it is to note, when Tupperware did have that crazy spike up, I'll get rid of all this unnecessary stuff, but when you see Tupperware had that crazy spike up, shorts didn't actually do all that much. So that is something to kind of consider, that shorts might still be in a very interesting predicament, because right now 12.37 million shares are on loan. Just to give you a quick overview of this, free float about 41.72 million is that free float. So shorts kind of are taking a big chunk of it, and in many cases, I don't know, is kind of overextended somewhat. Just looking at Interactive Broker short availability doesn't indicate that there's around 350,000 shares is available to be shorted. So that is something to consider, especially going into this week. And shorts trying to double down, there might not be all that available of shares. So again, just be aware of that. And plus, no doubtably, Tupperware still is on a lot of people's radar because of Roaring Kitty and 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧. I don't know if there was some other big names that was really kind of pushing Tupperware, but you never know. As a squeeze / momentum play, people's appetite for risk is going to be increasing this upcoming week. That could really stand to benefit Tupperware. Like I said, this has nothing to do with the operational side of it, which I do feel isn't necessarily the best, and kind of just in among itself does prompt it to go down, but still something to kind of consider. Options wise, 44,000 in calls, 34,000 in puts. 43% of all the options being done on Friday were optimistic and bullish, and for the most part it is anticipating for it to be above $2, so more of a resurgence for that. Looking at the open interest though, this is where you do see essentially kind of it's all over the place. So people are anticipating and are a little bit more optimistic about Tupperware. Nothing really crazy, because even among the meme stocks, Tupperware is kind of on the low end. There's a lot of bigger players such as GameStop, even Faraday right now is very, very popular, AMC. So Tupperware is kind of more of a B grade meme stock, if that kind of makes sense. But nonetheless, still looking at the options activity, very optimistic in that regard. Looking right here with it at $1.74, it is trading between this S2 and this S1, so it has been trying to fight back. So $1.79 will be that next strong resistance slash target for Tupperware, vice versa $1.63. So it kind of bounced off of that general area on Friday, but $1.63 will be that next strong support. Take this all with a grain of salt, because when it comes down to momentum plays, sometimes this is good when volume is low to pay attention to support and resistance points, but when it is going up, then disregard all of this. It is going to go up as what it sees fit. And like I said, a lot of retail was getting in. You can tell that based on the momentum indicator over this last little bit, and based on Friday at least, looks like they are starting to slowly get back in. So maybe a second resurgence of a potential maybe $2 test, and then depending on that, maybe $2.50. On the actual chart itself, still higher percentile of the Bollinger Band on Friday as well as Thursday, and I guess Wednesday if you want to classify that as well. It did bounce off of that central Bollinger Band, so at least the technicals on that stance are looking fairly good. And then aside from that, stochastic, you do see it at roughly about 32, so somewhat oversold. So again, that could really stand to benefit Tupperware for this upcoming week with a lot of the data that just came out, people's appetite for risk increasing. So that could really help to keep it in this range and potentially just test that $2 sooner rather than later. So I think all in all, Tupperware is a very interesting stock. Like I said, had nothing to do with operations, all of this, rather it just being a squeeze and momentum play. And probably a lot of people are still kind of watching it, such as Zach Morris and maybe others. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with, for instance, Tupperware? I know I kind of covered it on and off for a while now. Kind of haven't really covered it in a good 4 months or something like that, but I just felt justified to kind of bring up exactly what's been happening, what the data points are saying, and everything else. So give yourself a shout out if you have been buying and whatever else. One final thing, take advantage of this promo. So just sign up for a new account with Moomoo for $100 at it, and they give you 5 free stocks, each valued up to $2,000. So this is a kick-ass deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.